Hi everybody, Christian Toth here, aka Tired of the Hypocrisy. Uh, Want to say hello to everybody out there, especially to all the XJWs. Um, I wanted to talk today about field service and submitting your time for the month and that whole thing. I always wondered what the big fascination was with counting time. Minimum hours to be considered spiritual was putting in 10 hours if you were a publisher. Pioneers had a set number of hours. Auxiliary pioneers had a set number of hours. Special pioneers had a even higher set of hours. And that was pretty much how they gauged a person's spirituality, was the number of hours that they put out in the field ministry. And I always wondered, how do they really know whether these people are actually putting in that number of hours or not? I myself know from personal experience, having fudged many times on my timesheet. You know, I may have put in 1 or 2 hours and I put 12. You know, I put a minimum 10. You know, but I always wanted to be a little bit above 10. That way I looked a little bit better, and that way they wouldn't be nagging at me so much. But I know there was pioneers that, they were really stressed. They'd be coming to the end of the fiscal year, and they would have X number of hours left to do, and they didn't have enough time in the day to do it. And I know some of them would just get in the car and they would drive around and not stop anywhere. They would just drive around and count their hours. You know, I know a couple of them that used to put in, on average, they'd be trying to get in, I guess it was something like 90 hours a month. Uh, and a lot of them weren't even putting in half that legitimately, and they would just say they did. And I always wondered, is that what Christianity is really all about? Did Jesus have service meetings and send the disciples out with their little watchtower scrolls and say, hand these out? Be sure to get a couple of denarius for them. Um, don't forget to count your time, because I'm going to have Peter here send everybody's timesheets over to the New World in Brooklyn, New York, USA. It's going to be a time travel type thing, and I'm going to send them to the future. I don't know. It just never made any sense. I always thought, well, anything that was important, uh, and Jesus would have said it, and it would have been written down. So none of that was written down. Um, I know some of the pioneers, they're really lionized and glorified and made to seem like they're such special people, but a lot of them were very, very cold, uncaring people. My father-in-law's wife is a holy terror. She's a judgmental, horrible, evil person. Um, my father-in-law's nickname for her is La Judicial, meaning the judicial one, because she is a judge of people. Very hypocritical, very ignorant person, very stubborn and ridiculous. And, she told me that many times we'd be over at their place and we'd be sitting down to dinner or having coffee after dinner or something. And she'd just be in glee, laughing and slapping her knee, talking about the person she argued with out in the field that day. She goes out and knocks on people's doors looking for a fight. And she loves nothing more than when some guy calls her a stubborn jackass or something along that line. and she can just fly at them with both feet and just let them have it. And she's just horrible. You know, I never. I was told when when we moved near where my father-in-law was at, he said, "You're going to be around here a lot more. You're going to really see who this person is." Talking about her, and I mean, everything about her was appearances. Uh, she was a pioneer for over 20 years, and to my knowledge, has brought no one into the organization. I guess it's probably a good thing. Not even her own children from her previous marriage want anything to do with the witnesses because of her. You know, um, she insisted on getting a great big van to transport the sisters back and forth to the meeting, because not only was she going to be a pioneer, she had to be seen bringing vehicle-less people to the hall. She was used to transport people without cars to the assemblies. And as my father-in-law was aging and failing in health, she neglected him more and more in favor of transporting people to the Kingdom Hall. And it got to the point where um, he was starting to look bad in front of the elders. The circuit overseer would come to visit him when he'd come, and they would try and pin him down on something because he wasn't attending meetings. And then it turned out it was her doing. He wasn't well enough to go driving all over town picking up people, then going to the meeting, sitting there for a couple of hours, and then spending another half hour, 45 minutes dropping people off after the meeting, and then finally getting home. And she was totally unreasonable and insisted on doing this, so he ended up not going to the meetings. I just don't get how somebody can progress in the organization and be treated like such a stellar personality when they are just so evil. And then it hit me one day. The organization itself is evil. Why wouldn't they promote this kind of thing? You know, I know it was public knowledge to the neighbors that my father-in-law was very ill, needed his wife at home, and she was out banging on doors. And she's originally from Mexico, and one of the neighbors has a relatives that came from her area in Mexico, and they came for a visit. And whenever they came over, she'd go over there and they'd talk about, they had the area that they were raised in common, and she would always preach to them. And one day when they came, they were filled in ahead of time about how she's been neglecting her husband and going out to the ministry and carrying on like that with a sick husband at home. And so the visiting sister-in-law, I think it was, when she showed up to make her visit, she started preaching, "Oh yes, the wonderful, witnesses and all this and that." And she goes, "You have nothing to say to me." She said, "I hear how you treat your husband, and it's very clear to me that if you can leave a husband and neglect him when he's in so much need, you have no business going out preaching. And so you should just go back home and tend to your business at home and leave me alone." And she just told her off. And they got into a big argument. It was just typical, that idiot. But yeah, pioneers, in my opinion, are nothing special. The idea of counting your time is ridiculous and not scriptural. I was just wondering if anybody out there had any similar stories, or would like to make comments on the video. I'd like to read some comments. I wish you all a great weekend. Happy Mother's Day to the moms out there. Bless your hearts, all of you, and we'll talk again soon. Take care.